In this episode of Teach Me Something, Ed Laine attempts to teach our real estate expert, Long Zone, why the shortage of inventory is not going away. Ed is an experienced and cutting-edge broker providing innovative solutions to clients. 4 times in his career, Ed has been listed in the Wall Street Journal top 250 agents nationwide, and 2 times has been ranked the Wall Street Journal's #1 Washington State broker. Ed is a valuations expert specializing in asset disposition and smooth closings, as well as being skilled in fast home sales. He is a founder and charter member of Platinum REO Agents and is a charter member of REOforkids.com. Will Long learn something new from Ed? We will find out on this episode of Welcome to Teach Me Something, where our experts have 2 minutes to teach something new. I'm your host, Jesse Zagorski. Meet Long Zone. Long knows a lot about everything, but specifically real estate and leadership. Long has sold thousands of houses, but there's one thing you should know about him. Every day, he is committed to learning something new. And if he doesn't learn something new, he has to read a book for at least 20 minutes. Long loves to learn, but he hates reading books. Well, that's not totally true, but you get the idea. And Long has a short attention span because his brain is always thinking, which is why our contestants only have 2 minutes. Let's see if Long can learn something new on Teach Me Something. All right, so you ready to rock? So I'm going to put an official 2 minutes on the counter.
Absolutely.
All right, Ed, let's do this.
All right, Long. So what I'm going to teach you today is that all the prognosticators, if I can get it out, and economists that tell you that we're going to return to some semblance of balance in the market within a year or two are not only wrong, but they could be wrong by as much as a decade. And the thing I want to draw your attention to is, well, let me start with just a quick question. Do you know the average age of the first-time home buyer?
Older now than it used to be, maybe in the mid-30s to early 30s.
34 is the statistical average. And it's an important piece of data, because if you or I go to move, we're going to return a home to the inventory and then take a home out of the inventory, whereas first-time home buyers only take, right? Do you know what was happening 34 years ago?
I would put back into 1990 at the last recession we had.
1988. Birth rates were spiking. In fact, for the last 8 years, from 1981 to 88, they were doing nothing but climb, which means we've been getting more first-time home buyers each year than we had the previous year, and that's going to continue for 2 more years. And if I won't bore you because we're short on time, but it comes down to 15 births per 1,000. We hadn't been above 15 until 1981, and we stayed above 15 until 1995. So you could argue that we're going to have issues for another 8 or 9 years, because 1995, 34-year-olds would be in 2029. Combine that with the lack of inventory. We had 3.7 million homes on the market in 2007. We have 870,000 right now. So a tragic shortage of inventory combined with growing first-time homebuyer quantities means we're looking at probably 10 years plus of seller-centric markets.
At the buzzer. And I got to say, that was the first time we've had a contestant on this show who actually managed to ask questions too long in the middle of the 2 minutes. That was fantastic, Ed.
I didn't get to breathe the whole time, but I got it all.
All right. So Long, I'm sure you have some questions put together, but is there anything, because I'm fascinated by what you're saying. Is there anything you missed in those 2 minutes that you didn't get to, Ed, that you were trying to communicate?
No, just reinforcing the quantities, because there's a number of studies that said on average they were building 20 million homes per decade, but in the last decade they only built 5 million. So you're already at about a 15 million home deficit, and you've got this growing quantity of first-time home buyers, and builders are still afraid to go full bore into building more units. So we just have a pretty long uphill sled for buyers. For sellers, it's great, but that's the only thing I didn't get to, was just more data that supported the same argument.
Long, what sort of questions do you have?
Yeah, so no, that's some great information there. That definitely, I have a few questions from that. Number one is, so what's your thought on baby boomers? Because aren't they technically going to unfortunately passed on. So they're not picking up new homes while they're selling their homes, right? And that's 1/3 of the population. Just curious how that plays into your, prediction. Also, a lot of multifamily projects are out there now to try to solve the shortage in inventory. Then you got your interest rate going up, which would also might be harder for people to buy because they're losing their buying power, right? So just curious how that all comes into play in your mind.
Yeah, no, it's a great observation, and I'll cover it in reverse order. So rising interest rates absolutely puts downward pressure on values, but the difference we're talking about is slowing appreciation versus causing depreciation, right? So are we going to have 19% appreciation for a third year in a row? God, I hope not, because that's not healthy for anyone, right? Even though I'm a homeowner, it'd be great. But so that the downward pressure on appreciation is a real thing. Multifamily, and here in Seattle, people have been, municipalities have been going crazy with approving ADUs and DADUs so you can squeeze more units onto the same parcel and just create density out of that. And I think those are all smart things to do, because you don't make up a 14 million unit deficit by telling builders, hey, instead of building 1.5 million this year, you need to build 6. They're just not going to do it, right? So that helps with that. Now, boomers, that's a good one, because I think when a lot of people think about boomers right now, they think of downsizing. And that's where I thought you were going. But then you said dying, and that definitely returns inventory to the marketplace. So that will definitely have an influence. I think for the most part, a lot of those homes don't go onto the market, though. They go to the heirs. And then the heirs may sell it to liquidate the equity that's in there. But in a lot of cases, one sibling will buy from another. So who knows what the numbers would shake out to be? It will be absolutely an effect. I just don't think it's going to solve anything, because the deficit is so great.
Okay. The other question I have written down as well, from learning from you, is the new, especially with COVID, right? We were kind of moving that direction anyway, but COVID had really shown that the new local is global. So relocation has also become quite a big factor, because now you can almost work from anywhere. So you're actually getting people moving from Washington, California, to places like Arizona, maybe Midwest, because it's cheaper, cost of living. They're getting a lot more for their home. Just curious, how do you think that's going to be? Because I think states like us, Minnesota and the Midwest, we have lots of land still. We can build lots of inventory. So I think you'll see the builders coming back out in the woodworks that they went away back in 08, 09, 10 when we all got together for the last foreclosure crisis.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think I was going to be facetious and say, are they all moving to Minnesota? But it's so damn cold, right? But that's where land will be less expensive, and further south where it might not be as bitter cold. Jesse, you can chime in on the fact that California's population shrank for the first time in 175 years is pretty staggering, right? And what's crazy is it's all political. It's not necessarily cost of living. It's the fact that people are fed up. And so I do think you're going to see areas that had previously been ignored because of whatever reason, whether it's cold or the lack of commerce or fill in the blank reason why people don't want to go to South Dakota, which is cold again, I guess. People are going to be willing to overlook that, right? Because they can't afford. I have clients right now that we were looking for houses in Seattle. They were going to move from California. They just got an offer accepted in South Carolina for 1/10 of what they would have paid up here.
Right. And so with that flexibility in people to live in different places, in theory, that will help to equalize as we the Southern Shore, but it should help to equalize the different areas. So we have some different availability, but I think it's just going to take time for that to happen long. Right?
Well, I do
totally agree.
There's probably something we're not talking about. And I'm not saying I know what it is, right? But there's going to be, whether it's container homes or some sort of tech in construction, that's going to cause it easier to build multiple units and make them nicer. I mean, have you seen some of these container homes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're bamboo floors and granite counters. And I mean, they're nice. So I just think humans are pretty creative and industrious, and we'll figure out some new ways to sell houses.
Oh, yeah. All right. So Long, I got to ask, right? Because this is the whole point of the show. Did you learn something today?
Well, I absolutely did, because I'm going to have to go find opportunities to create or wrap up inventory so that I can turn, like we all did back in the foreclosure day, right? Everyone getting out of the industry, we got in and we went full speed ahead. So thank you, Ed. I'm going to start looking out for those opportunities.
My pleasure, man. Great to see you.
If you're looking for opportunities, what Ed just taught me was let's look for opportunities in the development side.
Absolutely. That's what I took away from it.
Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.